everyone. How are you today? Welcome. Today I have for you a pattern review. Not just a pattern review, but a collaboration with another lovely sewist who's on YouTube. Before we get started, I'm Sharon with Sharon Sews, and I am so glad that you are here. So the collaboration that I'm doing with the other sewer, or is it seamstress, or is it sewist? I'm not sure anymore what it is supposed to be. So the collaboration I'm doing with the other person who loves to sew is we chose a pattern, the same pattern, and sewed up our own versions and kind of chatted in between while we were doing so. The person that I'm doing the collaboration with is the lovely Carmen. I will link her information below. We met on Instagram, and I do met because we haven't met in real life yet. I have been following her on Instagram for a while, and then discovered that she had started a YouTube channel. So I started following her on YouTube, and then we connected and said, why don't we do a collaboration together? And so we left it up to her as to what pattern to choose. My lifestyle is pretty flexible right now. So the only thing I said I did not need was workout clothing. We are sewing, or we sewed 8379, Vogue 8379. This lovely wrap dress pattern from 2007. 2007. It's still in the pattern catalog. Do you know why I know that? I had to rebuy it. I did not think I had ever sewn it before, but I was going back through my blog posts looking for anything I tagged as wrap dress. And of course I didn't tag very well back then. And I came across reference that I had sewn this, and the pattern isn't here. I don't even remember sewing it. Maybe I didn't like it. I don't know. Anyway, lucky for me, Vogue Patterns was having a sale online, and I was able to repurchase the pattern. Unknowingly, we both sewed the very same view, which is view B, the 3/4 sleeve, the collar, and of course it's a wrap. So I'm going to give you a review from my point of view of this pattern. Okay, before I get into the review of the pattern, I remember now why I did not keep the dress, or why I don't remember sewing it, and why I didn't keep the pattern. I don't like wrap dresses on me. I don't like how they emphasize this part of my body. I've been self-conscious about this part of my body since I was 13 years old. And wrap dresses on me, I just don't think they're very flattering. Although I will say a good camera angle can do wonders. So the pattern review, my pattern review of this dress, it's very easy. It calls for moderate stretch knits, a matte jersey or silk jersey. So the silk jersey would give it that look of a DVF designer dress. This is an ITY knit. It actually has a lot more stretch than what the pattern called for, which might be one reason I'm not 100% thrilled with the final product. I love the animal print. I love it. I love animal prints. But some things I'm not real happy with, and I will share that with you. As you can see, my knit stretches much farther than what was necessary. Now, the instructions provided to sew this dress assume you do not have a serger. They give you instructions to sew each seam twice. When I don't have a serger and I'm sewing knits, I just do a very narrow little zigzag stitch, and it gives that little bit of stretch. Your seam won't pop. There's also a thread available from Coats & Clark. I believe it's called Edelflex, and I've used that with success before too. That's another option. Now, there is some interfacing in the dress. The collar's interfaced. The front band, or the front facing, is interfaced. And if I was going to do it again, I would add interfacing to the belt. The belt, I would do it just so it wouldn't scrunch up like this. Again, I think it's because I have a really soft knit that I've chosen. Now, the back shoulder piece is eased in very slightly to the front, and I stabilized that. I stabilized it with a strip of, this is a fusible stay tape. I actually found this at Fabric Mart Fabrics, but you can find it online. I'll link below. If you don't have fusible stay tape, you could use clear elastic to stabilize your shoulder seam. You could also just use a little strip of interfacing. That just helps keep that from distorting and getting out of shape as you wear it. I took off a good 1.5 inches off the length of this, and I think it works really well with my winter boots. But I think in the summer, if I were to wear this, I'd wear it with flats, and I would like this a little bit shorter. So I'm still debating if I'm going to shorten this one by 1 inch or sew myself another one. The view I chose to do was view B. And really the main reason I did it, first of all, I like the little collar detail, but I like the longer sleeve. I really like 3/4 length sleeves. Sleeves that end right here do not work on my large bust. It creates a horizontal line, and that's just not the look I am going for. So I went with the longer sleeve. I love the sleeve length right here. And I like the little details, the little extra cuff here, again, the collar. And let's talk about how I did an FBA. The fullness on this dress for your bust line comes from 2 pleats radiating from the waistline, as you can see here on the drawing from the pattern envelope. Now, I knew that I was probably going to need a full bust adjustment. I know the knit has a lot of stretch and it may have given me enough coverage, but I don't like my knits to pull over my bust line. And so I did a full bust adjustment, and essentially I added a dart and then I rotated that dart, and I now have 3 pleats down here. And that gave me the extra coverage that I like, and it doesn't pull and it doesn't gap. Here's my pattern piece, and I will give you a close-up. I'll show you how I did this in case you'd like to make a full bust adjustment for yourself or someone that you know. The first thing I did was to trace out that front bodice piece. That way I won't be making alterations to my original pattern. And when you do this, make sure you trace all of the markings on that front pattern piece. Next, you're simply going to cut out the pattern piece that you just traced. Now we're going to mark the lines that we're going to use to cut to make that bust dart. I like to use a different color pen when I do this, just to help me with the alterations. Starting at the marked bust point, that circle, draw a line perpendicular to the grain line all the way to the bottom of the pattern piece. Next, draw a line that goes to the side seam, and then draw a line that goes up to the armhole. Now you're going to cut right on those lines that you just drew. At the armhole, you're just going to make a clip from the edge of the pattern to the seam allowance, so 5/8 of an inch in. The rest of it, go ahead and cut it all the way open. Before you begin this part, make sure that you have pins holding the pattern piece to your cutting board, and you're going to gently pull the pieces apart that you just cut. Now you're going to pull it apart the width that you determine how much you need for your full bust adjustment. For me, it was 1 1/4 inch. So you will keep that front width parallel as you add the width, and that is what's creating your dart on the side seam. Now don't be concerned if your armhole starts to look like it's getting smaller. Trust me, this will work. Now we've created a side dart in our pattern piece, but we don't want a dart in this dress. We want to transfer that down to a pleat. We're creating a 3rd pleat. So you're just going to take that side seam dart and you're going to rotate it up so there's no width left in there, pin it in place, and then you can see you have a large area at the bottom where that 3rd pleat is going to be. Once you have moved all the lines and added the width that you want, go ahead and tape everything in place to the tissue paper that you have underneath. I used pink tissue paper just so you could see it a little more clearly, and I like to use medical tape for this. I wanted to keep the width of the pleats as designed on the pattern, so I measured the distance between the 2 pleats, and it was 7/8 of an inch. On my new pattern piece, I measured from the edge of each of the existing pleats, marked the large and small circles and the line. This is going to be our 3rd pleat for the extra fullness in the bust line. Next, I needed to determine the center of this pleat. Yes, of course, I could have just folded it in half, but I measured it and then divided that by 2, and then I made a mark as to where that center is. I then folded the pleat in half on that center line, and then I just extended those diagonal lines from the existing pleats. Here is our final altered piece. I have placed the altered bodice on top of the original bodice piece so you can see the difference. The other alteration I made to the dress is I had to increase the waist and the hip for the pattern size that I have. I am pretty much straight up and down. So my pattern size went to a size 14. My waist does not fit into a size 14, so I added more inches to the waist. And then, of course, I needed to add additional length to the tie belt. The other thing I did is I added a very slight rounded back adjustment. This is an alteration you may or may not need. If you find your tops want to pull back, you might need a small rounded back adjustment. It's a really simple adjustment. I learned this in the Real Fit for Real People, which is my fitting Bible. I've had that ever since the first one was published. So you can just see, you simply slit, shred it apart just a tiny little bit, and that just gives a little bit of extra room to get over that back. And that's just an alteration. You know, we spend a lot of time, like my career was as a communications manager, and I was on the computer because I was managing a website and I was doing social media and I was writing newsletter articles and speeches. And so I spent a lot of time on the computer, and we're on our phones, so we hunch. So this is a maybe. Now the instructions for this dress have you turn the hem up, ease in the fullness, and stitch in place by hand. It's a knit dress. Don't do that. Well, you can if you want to. I didn't do that. I used steam a seam on the hem. Again, if you don't have steam a seam, little strip of interfacing does the same thing. All it's really doing is just providing a tiny little bit of stabilization so that your hem doesn't get wavy. It's a little bit easier to stitch by machine. No, I told you I didn't serge the dress, but I didn't serge the construction part of the dress. I ended up getting a new serger right about the time I was ready to hem this. So I added the serged hem. So I serged the bottom of the hem. I applied my steam a seam to it, and I turned my hem up. As I lightly pressed the hem in place, I worked in that. I eased in the fullness. As you do that, you could just kind of work the fullness in a little bit with your fingers, just very gently, and then just lightly press. As the hem was turned up and in place, I just used my machine to stitch it. Now I know that I said I don't like wrap dresses because I don't think they look good on me, but I have these 3 vintage DVF patterns from Vogue, and I feel like I should sew them. I've got this one, it's a wrap 2342. It's a wrap top with a skirt and a belt. And I have 2517. It's actually a faux wrap dress. And then I have 1548, which is one of the first DVF wrap dress patterns. This is not the one that goes for like $100 on eBay, which I think is just ridiculous. If you could afford it, that is amazing and awesome, and you should buy it and sew it so you can see what it looks like. All of these patterns I've purchased off of eBay over the last 20 years. They came in pattern lots, and they were just like fun little bonuses, great little patterns. But I feel like this one is the traditional one, and I should sew it. So I want to know what you think. Drop me a comment below. Just put DVF if you think I should sew one of these. So that's my review of Vogue 8379, the wrap dress pattern that has been in the pattern catalog for 10, 12 years now, a dozen years. It's a popular one. Knowing that it's been in the pattern catalog for so long, I'm curious. Have you sewn one? Drop me a comment below and let me know what you think of the pattern. Now, I have to admit my boo-boo. So we're sewing. And it's got the 3/4 sleeve, and it's got this cute little cuff. Oh, you know what? There's no interfacing in this cuff. I would probably add interfacing in the cuff next time to give that a little more body also. Anyway, see this nice little split? Nice little split right at the underarm seam. Yeah, it's supposed to be up here. Supposed to be, I don't even think I can twist it. It's supposed to be up on top, which makes sense. It's a little design detail. So I got to rip this off and resew it. Oh goodness, it's just those silly things that I'm just so used to matching a seam with the underarm seam that I just automatically did it. This was a really fun collaboration with Carmen. Honestly, I may not have sewn this wrap dress if she hadn't said this is the one that we should do together. So thank you, Carmen, for choosing a wrap dress and for choosing this pattern. Now be sure to leave me a comment if you think I should sew one of those DDF wrap dresses from the 1970s, one of the vintage Vogue patterns. And also, if you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you have not subscribed yet so you don't miss future videos. And be sure to visit Carmen's YouTube and check out the dress she sewed. That's it for today. I'm Sharon with Sharon Sews, and I hope you have a wonderful day. I will see you soon.